Greetings! I'm Rodger Newbold, the host for Experience Photography's video number 78. Mr. Matt Rich, my friend, noted photographer from the balmy land of St. George, Utah, he is our major league editor in this episode. Today, my friend, we need to know the secret to personal success. What do you say?
Rodger, I've given this a lot of thought. And the secret to success is to give 100% unless you're donating blood.
In our last episode, we talked about the fact that you are what you show. We examined the fact that looking and seeing photographically are totally unlike. Seeing, in the deepest sense, help us to form an opinion and construct our visual narratives. In this episode, we hope to add some supplementary information to those ideas. You know, creativity flourishes in a full and active mind. Discovery inevitably comes to the inquisitive. Over the recent past, a couple of books have held my attention, and I was fascinated by a statement that encouraged me to learn how to learn. Now, I don't suppose that thought had creased the gray matter so sharply ever before. Pondering on that made us ask some questions about what that statement really meant. Have we acquired knowledge previously? The initial idea was that as children, we learn by strong cautions from our parents attempting to keep us safe. The repetitious warnings, that will kill you, will make you sick. No, I don't like it when you do that. It will be an embarrassment upon us as parents, and you can't do that. They cram your ears full for the first years. Well, obviously, we become a diminutive version of our parents. Once we arrive at school, there was more thunderings about, if you don't learn this, you won't pass the test. And, if you don't pass the test, then we're going to notify your parents. Ugh. Well, we began reshaping our lives to become not just like parents, but also to think about what teachers crammed into us from some neurotic textbook writing committee. We learned out of command and fear and punishment. It's no wonder we drew doodles all over our notebooks. It was the only thing that kept us sane and kept us from committing mayhem. Upon the release from the high school years, the institutional learning centers, our choices were enlarged. We could go learn from the boss in a workplace and become filled with essential skills, like don't poke your eye out with that pencil. And they got crammed into what will make, the company prosper in their philosophy. If you were parentally driven, or wealthy enough, or, just trying to avoid the draft board and their kind invitation, some may attended college and became crammed with more specialized theories of others' relativity. There seemed to be not enough time to learn what you wanted to learn about. Once the educational grocery cart had you totally loaded on the conveyor belt into adulthood, you're reasonably molded into that tidy, neat, prescribed citizen. So as we look at how to learn, it was a serious thought on that concept. The rigidness of the system would absolutely not let us swerve out of the rutted byway. Many others were attached to laziness or apathy, and they stipulated a path with silent, adhesive cobwebs. For the rest of the maddening crowd, they were just too impatient to wait. They couldn't get a different or better offering, so the complete tribe just trudged, deluded, onto a specific path of life, waiting to be sacrificed into the volcano rather unceremoniously. Perhaps we can break free and run with the lesson that was learned from Brooks Jensen in Len's work number 29. Brooks said, "When the flock veers left, turn right." That drumbeat pounded out by others may not be the only advice for you. Now, if this is the first time you've ever contemplated, how can I make photographs that are truly mine, that they feel like me, and show my thoughts? Well, hooray. Therefore, we are advising a cease and desist order with the 3 attributes we just listed above. As we mentioned before, stop being so rigid. Stop being so single-minded. Don't be a slave to what has gone before. Now, we agree, and I specifically agree. Ansel and others were terrific, and they had their way. They had their method. But it was not the only way. We can also attest to the fact that not everyone wants to be set out in the dark for the first light of morning images. But we also do not advise to become permanently affixed to the bed or couch. The good news here is you don't even have to go outside to photograph if that's personally disconcerting. However, it is requisite that you grab a camera, breathe deeply, and actually do something. Now, health levels vary. Enthusiasm varies. But if you visually want to speak up, you can't be lazy. Now, for heaven's sakes, lighten your suspenders, tighten them up, and then stop being so impatient. Take a look at this picture. This was done at home on the desktop. Learning to love the question is the first way that aligns you towards your personal track of new learning, creative wizardry. Often, questioning, observing, becoming more mindful, and cooling down the fire to a less frenetic pace will pay off in all your new endeavors. Serendipity and creative surprises do not arise out of nowhere. They must catch you while you're working and while you're pondering. Photograph what's in front of you and then rinse and repeat in a more imaginative manner, because repetition forces new seeing. Now, Ruth Bernhard used to give an assignment to photograph things within 10 feet of your bed. Challenge, just try to make 10 shots within 10 feet. That will build a love for your questions. Our demons may play part in what we photograph. and where we photograph and how much we photograph. But do not allow others to cram you onto a one-way rail car incorrectly. It is always better to make your own great shot of a mundane subject than a poor mundane shot of a predetermined great subject. Minor White often asked, "What else might it become?" Now, answering that question for yourself will guarantee you have an innovative, creative, personal photograph. Second, we mentioned in our past episode to find a muse that will increase your enthusiasm. The muse, or the enduring personification force of inspiration in photography for many, has been the photographer Sally Mann. This woman's a workaholic, epitomized completely in a not-so-common fashion. Sure, she used a giant 8x10 camera like Ansel and many others, but she chose to march to her own drummer, not to exhibit the same piercing finality in her imagery. She chose to use older, uncoated, softer rendering lenses. She chooses to seek intimate impressions of her subject matter and tenderly accumulate their essence. Her images encourage photographers to explore, to expand, to seek new levels of expression in whatever subject matter they personally choose. Take a peek at the landscape by Sally Mann. As we find, sooner or later, age and visual maturity allows us to change. Now, as for Sally, in her new vein of exploration, she has a newer, smaller camera, one of the new digital Leicas. However, she has chosen to use a batch of old 1940s vintage lenses. Now, I doubt that her subject matter will change, but she will have to discover some new techniques to continue on with digital. But her eye, her thought, her imagination is going to continue as beautiful as ever. Too often photographers spend way too much time, disproportional amount of energy, thinking about or even obsessing over tools. I personally find lens choice to be exciting muse, and that's okay. But it's not about the tools. Take a look at Edward Weston. He certainly had his muse. You'll see Karis Wilson there. Edward captured a diverse range of subjects in his photography, including the renowned Excusado. It was a sculptural Mexican toilet. It had, some curvaceous anthropomorphic studies of peppers that did the same, and a tall list of women that he photographed. But they bear a striking resemblance to his muse. The muse is to encourage, to embolden, and to inspire us. The third idea for more personal track is a very subjective element, and maybe not for everyone, but Roxanne Butcher Overton expresses in her multitude of books, survival favors clarity over awe. She was searching for a modernistic way of articulating her vision with plenty of new awe. And she found a way to loosen her rigid grip by floating through photographic ICM. That's intentional camera movement. Beautiful. Blur is not new. Most of us have received the blurry gift, especially when we didn't genuinely even want it. However, her beautiful interpretation, her actions, they glide the viewer into soft attentiveness. We do believe there is a timeless impulse in feeling an image. Rather than just depicting something, find the sensuality, because that's always subtle. Because authenticity matters more than plain old certainty. Take a look at her sailboats. I find this a fascinating look at one way of making a photograph. Now, a fourth item to enhance your personal lunge into intimate photography is to really have a mental issue. Over your dash to personal stardom, you must relinquish some of your personal ego. You have to allow that work to literally possess you. At some point, your exploration and questioning, you must give whatever the impulse the full amount of energy it can burn. Now, if the jet is to soar, don't quench the fire. As the artist Rodin said in French, which I cannot speak, so I'll translate, it says, work. Work always works. The camera, the large camera, the view cameras, they all taught us patience. But the small camera, the 35, the new digital realm, they provide us with pure energy. We've always been warned, you become whatever you eat. Well, the things you decide to ingest will render what you become. Decide to become a person of unique, intriguing interest. Select the best offerings available to you. What drives your passion? Put all your other priorities into proper perspective and just go for the gold. Become consumed with passion and don't quench the fire. Take a look at David Bailey's picture. That's shot with passion. Take a look at Robert Farber's picture from American Mood. He shot with passion. Number 5, catch the wave, not the ripple. By the way, how do you catch a wave? Well, I'm surely not demanding that you use shutter speeds up in the stratosphere for action-stopping photography. I am referring to being in practice with your tools. Not just the camera and lens combination, but with your method of processing the images and how you coach it into what it's supposed to say. Unfortunately, that process just cannot be rushed or forced. It arrives through experience, study, repetition of doing. This entails maturity in seeing feeling, translating, and all manners of practice and re-practice. Inevitably, practice cannot be ignored. We do not want you to fear failure, because failing once in a while is a sign of progress. Now, you may face 1,000 misses in your attempt before you catch that great one, and that's entirely fine. Remember, it was said that the first 10,000 shots were just to determine what wouldn't be as successful as the rest. At some point, you suddenly see the wave coming, and then you can catch it. And that's the point. Take a look at this one I shot. It's called Catching the Wave. It's road construction, when everything seemed to come together at one point. Now, if you recollect, when you leave the doctor's office, you should always feel better. Well, at least better than when you walked in. Now, with this reasoning, with this inquisitiveness, it will lead you to your personal discoveries. The camera and lens are only tools for expanding your eye, your mind, and your heart. The moral of the story in reality is you are the creative spark. You yourself. Pictures are not about pictures. They only reveal you, your most personal point of view. When you begin to feel like you are the camera, then you'll realize that you have reached an expressive personal level, and just attempt to approach the world with the question, what am I going to learn today? Folks, carry on with pizzazz. Well, friends, our time has elapsed for today. I thank you for hanging in there with us, especially in our totally hectic lives. They proceed to unfold at a frenetic pace. But please subscribe, ring the bell, give us that big giant thumbs up. If you like this adventure, please add your comments to the end and let us know your thoughts. They're important indicators of what we need to know and what direction we need to move in. Thanks, I appreciate it. Matt and I really have tried to suggest what will help you extend your creative choices wisely. We hope that you find success in all your accomplishments. In parting, I would like you to remember, your art will outlive you. People you will never meet will feel something because of what you made. So next time you think about quitting, remember that. The next time you encounter a subject, remember that. Keep on. Do your best. Well, Matt and I salute you. We thank you for watching. So I hope after this you'll get out and discover. Thanks for helping build value into our channel. And so, until we meet here again, I offer you a tip of my hat and bid you cheerio.